Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Oh boy, we've got a good one for you today. It's day 2 of guest week. Yesterday we had the great Jody Jackson on from Bally Sports. Listen, you do not want to miss all 28 minutes that we talk about today. We're going to start with a little philosophical side of Kyler Murray going into year 3, an article written by a good friend of the podcast, Josh Weinfuss. Is it time for Kyler to have some real expectations to succeed and get this team into the playoffs if he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Cardinals moving forward like we think he will be? Rondale Moore, etc., are balling out in training camp. We'll talk about that in the second segment. Is it rainbows and butterflies that will lead into the season, or is this just on the day where pads are finally garnered, just smokescreen as we look towards the 2021 season? Ian Rapoport, best in the business, by all accounts, in my opinion, is going to join us in the third segment to talk Chandler Jones' situation. Chandler Jones had a pretty interesting tweet that he put out yesterday we'll talk about. Is Chandler Jones for Xavier Howard still a possibility? Is Kliff Kingsbury seat warmer than we think? Is Steve Keim ever going to get fired? So many questions to ask the man, the myth, Ian Rapoport, in the third segment. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. Bo, it was your birthday yesterday. You turned 37 years old. You have the hairline of an 8-year-old. Good for you. Fantastic. You are the hair of the operation, I'll tell you that. Did you enjoy yourself after we recorded the pod yesterday for your day of birth?
Yeah, it was the most, it was the quietest birthday I've ever endured in my entire life. It was quiet and it was necessary. Just a month after bringing into the world my first son. And it was, I mean, talk about a difference like 16 years ago. I mean, I probably vomited on my birthday. Yesterday, my son, he vomited on my birthday. He did, spitting up his meals. But no, it was great. Thank you for everybody who reached out. Alex made me feel uncomfortable by being nice to me yesterday. I don't know how to act when Alex is kind to me. I find it very disingenuous. It's not true. Don't believe it. Where he doesn't really mean what he says. He's just a filthy liar. Yeah. But everybody's kind except for Alex.
Yeah, I mean, what I did was I purchased a Bo Voodoo doll yesterday, so I knew that was going to be happening. I wanted to front load the niceties, and then I mean, you just pretty much Simba Circle of Life to yesterday. Is what you're telling me.
No doubt
From
about it.
Throwing up on yourself to having another human being throw up on you. It's fantastic.
From my birthday to now, and we're full circle with my son.
Josh Weinfuss put out a very interesting article this morning for ESPN, and the title was "A More, quote, Philosophical Kyler Murray Enters Year 3 with the Arizona Cardinals." And, Bo, a huge storyline that we've had over the course of the offseason is Kyler Murray, his demeanor, his leadership capabilities, his video game, like, slice of his life now. Is he an introvert? Is he not set to be an NFL quarterback? And we think all of that stuff is ridiculous. But year 3, if you're going to be the franchise quarterback for this team, we're going to need to see that leap. Again, not a Patrick Mahomes leap, but a Lamar Jackson leap in a completely different way, right? I mean, we need to see it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it, especially when you start looking at the extension when he's going to become eligible to secure the bag in a big way and just get generational wealth. As far as an extension is concerned for Kyler Murray, it's going to finally probably put to bed the discussion about playing baseball. Like once he signs that deal and he's making upwards of $40 million, the prospect of going and riding a bus in the minor leagues for a season and trying to make the Oakland A's 40-man roster and 25-man roster is probably going to fall by the wayside, which is going to be good for the Arizona Cardinals. I think that this is going to be big because, you know, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, the two guys that you outlined there, they set unreal expectations for second-year quarterbacks by winning the most valuable player on the offensive side of the football. I think that, having those around Kyler Murray, I think that's a testament to his skill set, that people believe that he can tap into that. And he did for the most part last season with 37 total touchdowns, 4,600 yards from scrimmage. But now we're looking at a more realistic trajectory where he could take that Josh Allen leap. And with that, and with Josh Allen's better play, it took the Bills into a different stratosphere. And when you have that type of play from your quarterback, it elevates your team. Like, you could have shortcomings, on the defensive line, or you could have shortcomings in the defensive secondary. But if you have a guy that can absolutely just ball out of the quarterback position and put the pressure on the opposing team by just continuing driving your team down the field, I mean, it's going to put the Cardinals in a different stratosphere if he can take that type of leap.
For sure. And people that are worried about injury, I mean, it's a concern that people talk about a lot, and that's why he's kind of demoted from the upper echelon of Madden players, until he gets injured. I mean, that's what it is. Patrick Mahomes has missed more games than Kyler Murray has so far. So Kyler Murray doesn't miss time. Yes, he was injured last year, shoulder injury that isn't lingering into this season. But you're right. I mean, we've seen the hits from Kyler Murray. You know how I say with Kliff Kingsbury, he can put together a hell of a trailer for a movie, but sometimes the movie sucks when he's doing, we've seen play calls from Kliff Kingsbury. It's like, oh man, this dude could be a head coach in this league. And then we go for these long stretches of what the hell's going on here? And we kind of see that with Kyler in some respects throughout the course of his time. He's been learning on the fly. He hasn't had a great backup quarterback to kind of help him in that room. It's been him and Kliff on an island. Like, this is the year. And there's reports abound through training camp, and they're in Josh's article on ESPN.com. Everybody's like, yeah, this kid's growing up in front of our very eyes. Like, especially with the omission of Larry Fitzgerald from the ecosystem, it kind of throws his feet to the fire. Like, who's going to be it? It's not going to be J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt just got here. It's going to be Kyler and Budda Baker. That's going to be it, hopefully, for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is the maturation. And I feel like, and it's just, I know everybody looks great in shorts. They're just getting the pads on. But I am incredibly encouraged by just seeing the play of Rondale Moore going down the middle of the field and making a big catch in the end zone. Now, unfortunately, against Byron Murphy, a guy that we have big expectations for this season. But Rondale Moore and Kyler Murray made a great throw and catch. Can you remember from last year down the seam like that? Kyler Murray throwing the ball for a big-time touchdown like that. Now, he had the big score, throwing pass catch to Christian Kirk.
That's
of course, we had a couple down the sidelines to DeAndre Hopkins. But for the most part, the middle of the field, down the seam, it hasn't been a big part of his game. And if he's just incorporating that, and if you got playmakers down that part of the field, it just opens things up for this offense.
Yeah, and you just need to utilize Rondale Moore correctly. Like, I feel like Christian Kirk gets a bad rap. He had, 4 touchdowns in 3 games last year during a stretch, and I think the Dallas one was in the middle of it. If you utilize these receivers correctly, I feel like Christian Kirk could have been a wide receiver 2 in a different system where he'd be featured a little bit better. If they can learn, just like hopefully they learned from the Hassan Reddick plight with Isaiah Simmons, hopefully they can learn by the misuse of wide receivers up to this point with Kliff and allow Rondale Moore to be in a position to succeed, as you mentioned. And if it's up the seam, all you look at is AJ Green on one side and DeAndre Hopkins on the other. Who are you going to stop? Who are you going to stop? And I know that AJ Green we'll talk about, but Alex Clancy, Bob Brack, Locked On Cardinals. Follow him at Bob Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Smash the like button on YouTube, according to Bob Brack. Please subscribe. We have some great stuff coming up. I mean, we are, 6 weeks away, less than 6 weeks away. And it's only going to get better from here. Ian Rapoport coming
away from the preseason opener.
Yeah. Like, that's where it's like when I fill up my bracket for March Madness, I usually wait till the last second because I don't want to get too excited. Fantasy football, I haven't thought about fantasy football yet because that's all I'll think about. So with the NFL, I don't even want to think about preseason because I'll get super excited. But pads going on today, it's the gateway drug into getting super excited about the NFL season coming up. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Rondale Moore, AJ Green, Zaven Collins. What have we seen so far from training camp that will translate to the 2021 NFL season for the Cardinals? That's coming up next. Locked On Cardinals. First, Bet Online. fastest and easiest way to drop coin on all your sports action. According to Bo bets in shekels. Baseball season still rolling. Again, I say this whenever I do this live read. I wish baseball was my favorite sport because it's legitimately 6 months, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. You could watch baseball, and you could check all of it out on betonline.ag. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs. Don't sit on the sideline anymore. This is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for regular season starts or baseball starting to shift into that September time where playoffs begin. Go to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code Locked On. Again, go to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with promo code Locked On. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. We are smack dab in the middle of guest week. I wish we would have come up with a better name.
I think it's just kind of funny. It's stupid. It's like uncreative, but it's, it is. It's like Shark Week. It's just guest week.
It's guest week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can't say Jody, Ian, Kyle. Like, we can't go through. The rest of the week is going to be Kyle Odegaard, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. He's going to join us tomorrow. Really excited to get him on. Another red-bearded brother of mine, which is fantastic. I'm excited about that. And then Thursday, we're going to shift Johnny Venerable from Revenge of the Birds from Friday, from his normal post to Thursday, and make way for Cameron Cox, that SOB. I'm so excited to get him on. We were texting last night about something that is going to be discussed with Ian Rapoport in the next segment, getting a little run for Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Bo, at Bob Brack on Twitter. Rondell Moore, exciting. AJ Green, exciting. Zaven Collins, tipping passes, exciting, that turn into interceptions. It's unfortunate, though. It's a little incestuous because you're excited about one thing and immediately upset about another thing because they're defending or burning players on your own roster. Like Marco Wilson picked off Kyler Murray. That was a tweet that Josh Weinfuss put out. Just like Marco Wilson is an absolute freak. Bo is the president of his fan club. If you didn't know up until this point, he does the Living the Dream dance, the Will Ferrell. I mean, he does it more than you know when the cameras are off. Yeah. What has excited you the most so far?
Obviously the offense. You're hearing all the right things from the two wide receivers that were supposed to supplement the offense opposite DeAndre Hopkins with AJ Green and Rondell Moore. I did like the quote from DeAndre Hopkins about Rondell Moore, kind of keeping him humble, like he hasn't done anything. And I'm paraphrasing there, but pretty much saying, hey, it's just a couple practices. He has a lot more to prove, the second rounder out of Purdue. So I like that mentality. That's what the Arizona Cardinals have to have. But I'll tell you what has me the most excited, Alex, and you mentioned Zaven Collins. He had the tip, and then it was picked off. The tip ball went into the hands of Chris Banjo, who seems to always be around the ball. Like we saw a couple picks from Chris Banjo called back last year, unfortunately due to PI, and it wasn't his PI, it was somebody else like Drake or Patrick. But it has me excited. And then his running mate there, Isaiah Simmons, had a big tip ball. I saw on Twitter, it was Sports AZ fan put it out there. He had some footage from practice. Those two guys, in Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, you talk about Michael Jordan's horrible quote, but the ceiling is the roof for those guys. No doubt about it. I mean, come on. I mean, the size, the speed, the athleticism, the coverage skills. I mean, it could just create a new type of defense that has the rest of the NFC West. Just they're as far as offensive coordinators, they're mine in a pretzel. I mean, you don't know what to do. You don't know where to go with the football when you've got those guys either coming at your, stuffing run lanes, getting after the quarterback, or batting down passes. I mean, I think between Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons, like what's the over/under on combined interceptions between those guys? 4.5.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Around. I mean, Zaven Collins is great. He's a lot better in coverage than Isaiah Simmons is. Like when do you remember NCAA football, the video game? Of course. Before they took it away from us. When you go on recruiting trips and you would recruit athletes, you have positions or athletes. That's what these two guys are. They just happen to play linebacker.
Yeah, give me a roster full athletes.
Yeah, I mean, Zaven Collins, I think he played quarterback and safety in college, if I'm not mistaken. Like the dude has played all over the field. Okay. He's going to play inside linebacker for now. Isaiah Simmons is going to get some run, we think, on the outside a little bit at least to see where he fits the best. But you're right. I mean, that's the most exciting because there's really the most pressure on those two on the defense. The corners, we're going to see. Buda's already solidified himself as a top safety in the league. And you have Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt who've already shown. We have a tabula rasa, clean slate, 100%. We do not know how these two are going to play together. And if they become the anchor in the middle of this defense, the ceiling is completely shattered for what this team can do. And that's not an understatement. I mean, that's not an overstatement. That's what it is. For me, though, it's going to be the receivers. Kyler Murray, I try not to watch too much film on it because I get too excited. Again, it's like you just forget what this dude can do. You forget, like... Yeah.
I thought you were going with AJ Green again.
Well, I mean, AJ Green's a wide receiver, you know.
Yeah,
but, I mean, like,
right
it's more of a Rondale Moore thing. DeAndre Hopkins, can he replicate and expound upon what he did last year during the underutilization time, in my opinion, at least? Kyler Murray is very similar to Josh Allen in the way that neither of them should be able to do what they do from the quarterback position. Like, Josh Allen shouldn't be as nimble as he is, and Kyler Murray shouldn't be able to get off some of the throws that he does by their difference in size. So, I mean, I think they're a lot more similar than we give them credit for, just not directly on paper. I think the receivers, that's because I'm going to go with this. This is if I'm running for mayor of, the Locked On Podcast Network, it's going to be on the platform of, if Kliff Kingsbury cannot elevate this offense, and if they are not the strength of this team, what is he doing here? Like, and it's not harsh. It's just the reality.
If they tap into the expectations, I mean, we're talking about a top 10 group on both sides of the football. I mean, and with that means playoff time. If they do. But then there's a lot has to go right. A lot has to, everybody can look good out there just in shorts, and as far as the physicality out there, it's at a minimum. But also I think we should, the signing yesterday, bringing back Corey Peters, a guy who's been a fixture in the locker room. It's important. I was calling to add some beef back to the defensive line, and I think Corey Peters is a guy that absolutely can do that. And it's necessary for the success of this defense to get a presence like Corey Peters to facilitate and help things out for guy when J.J. Watt gets back from the sore hamstring. Of course, Chandler Jones, who we're going to talk about here with Ian Rapoport shortly. But I mean, adding Corey Peters, there's a lot of excitement around. And you said, I think there's a perfect mix of like batted down footballs by your young linebackers, plays being made by, either Malcolm Butler or Marco Wilson in the secondary, and then enough on the offensive side of the football where it's keeping you happy. And you're like, oh boy, one of those sides of the football is struggling, but there's a good mix right now.
Yeah. So let me ask you this before we get to RapSheet here on the other side. What would you put some cheese down on betonline.ag?
Yeah.
For a future of either Marco Wilson or Tay Gowan popping and becoming not necessarily a starter, but playing 50 to 60% of the snaps, or Isaiah Simmons taking a leap forward this year?
I'm going to go with with chalk. I'll go with the guy who's got the absolute just tool shed of skills, and that's Isaiah Simmons. I think that Isaiah Simmons is no longer drinking from a fire hose, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to settle in. And, barring any kind of injury, I think he's going to have a solid season for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, the other guys, there's more of an unknown. I mean, I think it's beyond just throwing a shoe for Marco Wilson, and Tay Gowan is a guy who didn't really play collegiately. He sat out for the pandemic because he had a young child, and he didn't want to put that child in harm's way. And, it's I think that there's more, and it's going to be tough for them to crack 50% for sure. I mean, I think they can get on the field and they can be in those big packages where there's a ton of defensive backs on the field. But I still think, one, they're competing with each other probably for not a whole lot of positions left outside of Malcolm Butler, Robert Alford, Byron Murphy. So I'll go with Isaiah Simmons. And I think it's more me being optimistic that the first rounder, the 8th overall pick, can be who we thought he was when he was selected in 2020. Yeah,
it's interesting. I'd probably go with that too. I feel like that Marco and Tay are going to get opportunities though. And if the cornerback room isn't moving forward, if it's stagnant or moving backwards regarding performance, they're going to get more opportunity than we think at this point. The linebackers, I just don't know. It's like fool me once, and not the George W. Bush way, the actual correct way to say it. Fool me once, like it's. I'm almost like
right.
I'm completely lost my train of thought.
That's my Will Ferrell doing George W.
Yeah. No, I'm done. Alex Clancy, Ballbrock, Locked on Cardinals. It doesn't matter. Coming up next, the one, the only Ian Rapoport at RapSheet on Twitter is going to join us. We're going to talk Chandler Jones. We're going to talk the reemergence of that trade offer that surfaced about, Cardinals trading Chandler Jones in a fifth for Xavier Howard, and Chandler Jones sneakily subtweeting via misspelled words. I might start using that. That's really smart, actually. All that and more with Ian Rapoport coming up next, Locked on Cardinals. First, rockauto.com. rockauto.com. Family-owned business. They've been around for 20 years. You don't have to leave your home. If you work from home, rockauto.com. You don't have to go to a chain storefront. You don't have to be like, hey, I don't know where anything is. I don't know anything about cars. Can you help me? You can do that on your own time in the comfort of your own home in your pajamas. Go to rockauto.com. Just search for whatever you need. Paint, carpets, whatever, tail lamps, whatever you need for your car. The prices are reliably low. They're the same for manufacturers and do-it-yourselfers like us. So you don't get upcharged because you're not a manufacturer. So whether it's for your daily driver or your weekend car, rockauto.com's got you covered. Go to rockauto.com. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us, Bucks? So they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. Welcome back. Final segment, Locked on Cardinals. Alex Clancy, Bo Brack. We've been teasing it for the last 36 hours or so. Really, really excited to bring in the man, the myth, Ian Rapoport at RapSheet on Twitter. You can find him on Good Morning Football, all over the NFL Network. Great Twitter follow. Ian, how the hell are you, man?
What's going on? How you guys doing?
We're good. Okay, so let's just jump to it here. The report surfaced about the Dolphins offering the Cardinals Xavier Howard for Chandler Jones and a pick, and the Cardinals turned it down. Were you privy to all of this? It seemingly came out of nowhere after all this speculation that may be a possibility when Chandler Jones didn't show up to camp on time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure who reported that. I don't believe that's true. As far as I can tell, the Dolphins definitely did not inquire about trading for Chandler Jones, and I don't get the sense the Cardinals want to trade him at all either. So I'm not sure where that came from. I have not heard that at all. And honestly, if the Cardinals, I would never say never, but if the Cardinals traded Chandler Jones, I would be a little surprised based on where they are as an organization and the kind of respect they have for him.
Ian, when we announced on Twitter that we were having you on the show, we said that you're going to talk about the Chandler Jones situation, and he didn't respond to the tweet, but he put this one out there. Ian Rapoport doesn't know blank about my situation. What is that true? Can you confirm or deny that you don't know anything about his situation?
I don't know was it a response to your tweet? Do you know?
I think he subtweeted us.
Yeah, I think he subtweeted us.
I mean, I know a little bit. I mean, I don't know if, I don't know if he's angry at me or the world, or I have no idea. He shouldn't be angry at anyone. As far as I can tell, I haven't reported very much in his situation at all. So I don't know. I do know a little bit though. So I can say that he is wrong in that case.
All right. So real quick. So a little P's and Q's here. So Corey Peters re-signed yesterday. Has there been any rumblings about Larry Fitzgerald? Like it's slowly but surely getting a little bit more and more in the, the backstory of where the Cardinals are heading in 2021. But we don't hear a blip from Fitz. So, I mean, have you heard anything?
Yeah. I mean, last time I texted with him, he was extremely cordial and nice as he is and said no news. And, Larry is old enough and respected enough where he's essentially in charge of his own message, right? So, I don't know, who knows how whatever is going to break, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that whatever is going to break, he's going to be in charge of it. And that's okay. So I'll keep checking with him. I have not heard anything. And, obviously, the Cardinals are, signed A.J. Green, who sounds like he's having an awesome camp, by the way. Not totally surprising, but really does sound like he's going to rock star there. I assume there's room for a future Hall of Famer somewhere. But, I mean, I don't know. Larry certainly can be in charge of his own message here as it relates to his future.
Hold on. And Bo, before you jump in, I've been on the AJ Green gravy train since I saw the initial report. Now, we're close to the same age, Bo and you and I, and we saw him grow up. We saw how great he was in Cincinnati. He had 1 year with a rookie quarterback, tore his ACL, Ryan Finley, and then now people think that he can't play football. So it seems like you're on my side of this coin a little bit, thinking he may perform a little bit better than people think.
Yeah, and, based on, I think it was a rough couple of years for AJ Green. He was kind of injured. He was up and down. I don't know about fell out of favor, but something was not right in Cincinnati. It just was not right. I think it was time. So and when he signed with the Cardinals, it was like, he wasn't a top receiver. He was not anyone's, favorite free agent. He just wasn't. But it sounds like he's been great. And it is fascinating what can happen with a guy when he gets a new spot, he gets a new light, he gets a new birth. I would also say, and most people kind of seems like a million years ago, so they forget this. He was a rock star. He was a legit Hall of Fame track receiver, and still might be, depending on what his second act is. But I really do like the signing for the Cardinals.
Ian Rapoport joins us here on the Locked On Cardinals podcast, RapSheet on Twitter. So earlier this week, it was Jordan Hicks, very candid about his situation with the Cardinals this offseason. And what's the latest on Jordan Hicks? Is the team still maybe shopping him? What's the plan for the veteran linebacker?
Yeah, it seems like the team would be open to doing a deal, the right kind of deal. I don't know that a lot of teams want to trade for and then pay a linebacker guaranteed money. Just doesn't sound like that's something teams would do. You never know if you have an injury and you say, I need someone, I'll pay a couple $1 million more than I want to. That could happen. I don't get a sense there's a great market for him now. And the fact that everyone knew he was available in May and June and nobody traded for him makes me think maybe he'll probably be on the team. But again, injuries can dictate and crazy things can happen. So we'll see. Maybe he does get traded, but I get it because nobody wants to be replaced. I just think if you're the Cardinals and you have, a bright, shiny object with a bright future like Zaven Collins, like what are you supposed to do,
Right.
So I'm going to shift here to the level of hot-seatedness for Kliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. Steve Keim was kind of the overwhelming story for me, at least, that he's announcing this months before the season starts, where you have a dude that's been with you a little bit before Zaven Collins even plays. Steve Keim seems to have his job in perpetuity with how poorly he's drafted from top to bottom. But with Kliff Kingsbury, is there a hot seat conversation immediately starting this season?
Well, I would, in the NFL, a lot of times it feels like coaches are always on the hot seat, right? It's just kind of what it feels like. I would say this will be the third year. They got a quarterback that's really good. I think they got a good enough roster to be a playoff team. I don't know about hot seat, but it would probably be a good time to win. And I would say for everyone, you're always sort of a year away from someone making a decision on your future. So we'll see how it goes, but it does feel like a team that went all in. And when you do that, the expectations of having to win now also come. So it's safe to say this will be a team everyone's watching pretty closely.
And what are you hearing as far as the timeline for a Kyler Murray extension? He's going into his third season. The opportunity to extend him, sign him to a massive deal. How do you think the Arizona Cardinals are going to approach it, and what are you hearing?
Obviously it's something that's on the radar for them in the future, and what you want to do is be forced into a place where you have to extend your quarterback, right? That's what you want. You want to be like the Bills and Josh Allen. You want to be like the Ravens of Lamar Jackson, where you have a quarterback that's so good who's going to make so much money in the future that you just have to sign him now just to mitigate how much money you're going to pay. Like, that's everyone's goal. So if the Cardinals have to pay Kyler Murray a lot of money, then I think everything is good. Life is good, because that would mean they're in a situation that is, a situation that they want to be in.
At RapSheet on Twitter, best in the business by all accounts, by Bo and mine at least. It's pad day today. Ian, where does this rank on the hierarchy of giddiness when it comes to the football season getting closer?
Yeah, it's it's awesome. Like I'm in Tampa today and in practice, it looks like football, and I like, 7-on-7 stuff is fun. It's still football practice. I still enjoy it, but it is different when the pads come on. And I think the other thing is, if you're a head coach or an evaluator and you want to know what you got, you really don't know anything until the pads come on. Like every year there's receivers who flash in like 7-on-7 in shells, and then you get the pads on and they're not the same. Like that's the kind of stuff you need to figure out. That's the kind of stuff you need to see. So today is almost like the start of real football, and I think it's pretty great.
It's good. It's a great team to cover. Obviously, Bruce Arians, good for a soundbite. I'm sure you're excited to catch up with BA and Tom Brady.
We did earlier today, actually. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Anything from the old Cardinals coach? He's good to go.
I mean, yeah, he's got a lot of old Cardinals assistants on the staff too.
Yeah.
He was so excited to work them really hard. And he's in a way a veterans coach. He gave Brady and Gronk an off day today. Levante David, same thing. But he was really excited about working them hard, and it seems like, this is a team that I would not have to worry about the Super Bowl hangover from this team, because they are, certainly they are a team that will probably want it as much as anyone coming off post Super Bowl. I'm not worried about BA making sure that, the team. I'm not worried about this team being complacent. I'll say that. So, the way they were playing last year, they should pick up right where they left off this year.
And they seemingly pulled off the absolute impossible, bringing everybody back and then adding pieces like Gio Bernard, etc. Ian, thank you so much. 1,000 times. Thank you for doing this for us at RapSheet on Twitter. Great follow all over NFL Network. Have fun this season. Don't get too giddy yet. I mean, we still have a few weeks to go. Are you going to the Hall of Fame game?
I'm not. I will be home working from my house and seeing my family, which is certainly going to be a very fun thing.
Hey, and congrats on the Mets getting biased, man. You probably got to be beside yourself, pumped about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like, a starting pitcher would have been nice. It's a reliever would have been nice. It's fine. The Mets are having a good enough year. The division's bad. Let's get to the playoffs and we'll see what happens. Get to Grom back. We'll see what happens.
Tough team to love, man. It's a tough. I mean, it really is. Like that's
for the Cardinals, dude.
Well,
Welcome to my life.
Alex Lacey, Bo Brock, Ian Rapoport. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Look forward to you guys. Take care.